right. I'll start by just saying, we're the first 18 minutes of the game, you got to play better, got to make some plays. I got to coach better. I mean, I can just keep naming all those things. After that, it was an even football game, for the last, 42 minutes. Unfortunately, the game's 60 minutes and we got to figure out against a really good football team, how do you play 60 minutes? And, some of it I give Memphis credit. I mean, I think they're a very, very good football team. I think football teams, first, you measure them up front. And I thought they were probably as good up front as anybody we've played against all year on both sides of the football. And I thought that was really evident in the first quarter and some odd minutes. And I think that really kind of set the tone for the game. And, we settled in, but just too late. Took us too long to catch up to the speed of what was going on out there. And probably, trying to now scheme up the line of scrimmage to try to give yourself some advantages. And, I thought there was some good stuff there once we settled in, but you can't take a quarter and a half settling in against a top 25 team. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Can you talk a little bit? I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but just tackling and some things that might have been schemed up right, but just didn't get executed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something, I think the two things that you need to do really well, right, to be a quality football team, you got to block and you got to tackle. And, I think early on, we didn't do either one of those very well in either phase. And so, some of it, we gotta form up better. We got to rally to the football, get more troops there, right? Instead of, a one-on-one tackle opportunity, we got to get home with multiple people. And the other part is we got to continue to develop, right, really the DNA to do that. And, what I told our guys in the locker room is, Memphis they're the bar, right? They're a perennial 10-win team, right? They're in position they've put themselves in a position to win the conference, to possibly be in a college football playoffs. And that's where we want to be. And that takes development, right? We got to continue to hit that weight room. And so some of that's the answer. Some of that we got to continue to physically get bigger and stronger, right? That we can now match up in that game every play, not 2/3 of the play.
And then I wanted to ask you, offense settling in, the three drives that y'all picked up at least one first down, averaged 5 yards play.
Yeah.
What does that kind of say about where y'all are at, that when it gets going, generally?
Yeah. Well, I think it kind of speaks to maybe the consistency, right? That we find at times, and sometimes it gets away from us. And, it's easier said than done. I mean, we knew this was going to be a challenge, right? The quality of defense that they've played all year, and their upgrade on that side of the football, especially up front, I thought was potentially, right, going to be one of the biggest challenges of the night for us, and it was. And so some of that I just give to Memphis, right? I think they forced us to make some quick decisions. Didn't always make them the right way. They forced us to be uncomfortable. And something we talked about pregame, we wanted to make them uncomfortable. That never happened. Instead, they flipped the page. They made us really uncomfortable on offense early on with some movements and how quick, right, they rallied to the football from different angles. And we had some answers and didn't always make the right decisions or didn't always make the play. Last week, a lot of those plays hit. This week, some new concepts, new schemes, and we just missed on a couple, right? Q-Jack just missed. We just overthrew Q-Jack this week. Similar concept, but different concept, right? Dialed it up. He's there just off his tip of his hands. Last week, we complete that, right? There's another missed opportunity in scoring. And against that caliber team, you really need to make all those, to be honest, right? And it just didn't happen, especially early on. But what it does tell you is when we do settle in and we can find the answers, we can get it going, right? But when you're behind, 21-0 because you didn't get it going early enough and we didn't maybe tackle as well as we needed to early on, then you're playing a whole different game. And a game we're not built for, right? We're not built for that. And that just really put our guys in a tough situation, from there on out. And, I like the way we continue to play, because it was really, after that, it was an even game. And, that didn't have to be the case. But so our guys continue to fight, they continue to show up and made some plays, found some ways to get better throughout the game.
And then self-inflicted wounds, 78 penalty yards. What do you do to address that?
Well, we'll get on film and watch the ones that we think we can control, right? And we'll address it in every phase of the game. And yeah, we'll look at it and figure out how do we get better there, right? And I think some of it you get forced into, maybe now you're behind and you're trying to make a play and you do something that's out of character or undisciplined, and some of it's just maybe in the place of the wrong place at the wrong time, and some of it I just got to look at, to be honest. So we'll see what it looks like on tape.
Hey, Coach. Today, the big plays really hurt the team in the first game.
Yeah.
The second half looked like the team really improved. What lessons did the team take away at halftime to help stop the big play, and how can they use that in the rest of the season?
Well, it felt somewhat similar to last week. Like, we gave some big plays in the first half, and then the second half we settled in. And so we got to settle in quicker. We got to settle in quicker, and that's in every phase of our game. And I think we tackled better in the second half. I think that's the big key. So how do we? And that's really, that's one of my challenges. How do we come out the gate ready to be at our best? And it's hard to replicate game speed. And when you're playing that, quality opponent, to replicate their speed. And so maybe that's some of it. We got to figure that out. But, I think maybe our guys focused in a little more, right? Fought a little harder to make that tackle, fought a little harder to get there to help the guy who had rallied. And I think when we watch film, I think the first half, right, we'll see a lot of one-on-one missed opportunities. In the second half, we'll probably see more of a pack mentality out there, and that's what we need to be.
And I was wondering, what were your initial reactions to how the offense can move on third down today? It seemed like the team had a little bit of challenge on third down, especially compared to.
Well, it doesn't seem like it. We did. Yeah, we had it. It was a challenge. I think we got to be better on second down. We were pretty good on first down tonight. Yeah. Now we'll stat it out, and I'll tell you, Monday, if we were good on first down. I think we were. There were a lot of 4 to 6 yard gains. Second down, I'm thinking we were abysmal, which puts you behind the chains and makes third down really tough. And so, the third down numbers aren't always necessarily because of the third down. It's sometimes the down leading up to it. And I think that's what we'll find tonight.
I'm just curious if you can talk a little bit about keeping Chase in the game deep into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He's taking some hits with less than 5 minutes left in the game. What's the process like to evaluate whether he should be kept in the game? Is there a certain threshold in terms of score, hits he's taking?
Well, I think for us, we always look at the situation. Is there an opportunity for the offense to grow? Is there an opportunity for the defense to grow? Is there an opportunity to gain some confidence, right? We're now down to a 3-game season. We got some goals that are, a goal, set out to start the season to make yourself bowl eligible is very much in front of us. And so, you want to continue to learn and grow in the game. So I think that's what we look at, right? Is there an opportunity still to get better out there? Is there an opportunity for whatever phase of the game to get experience that's going to help us next week or the week after?
I think that's the first time I've heard you use the B word in a
There you
press
go.
conference.
Yep. I used it in the locker room today too. That's a goal. I don't hide from it. We got 3 games left and they're tough. The challenges are ahead of us, right? But, I think this is a very capable team when it all comes together and we play well. And, I'm excited for the challenge ahead of us. And so, we'll take it one game at a time, right? And so we got to figure out how to go 1-0 each week, and that will be our challenge this week. But the players they know that's a goal of ours, and so if you don't speak your goals, they don't come into existence. So the opportunities out there, it's up to us to go capitalize on that. Yeah.
All right. Can you kind of walk me through, from your perspective, what you were seeing on defense tonight, especially how quickly Memphis came out.
I would say first, just fundamentals, tackling, staying in our gaps, the little things. A lot of times we just beat ourselves. Thought too much instead of just playing fast. Thought we were in one thing, busted coverages, busted fits. So it just a lot of times, like in the first half, we just beat ourselves. In the second half, we got it together and started, just doing our job, not trying to make every play and trying to make the big play, but just doing what we're coached to do.
And then I remember we talked leading up to the UConn game, had a similar conversation. We just got to tackle. And then last week y'all pull it out, have some big defensive performances down the stretch. What's the trick to do it 2 weeks in a row to make it a consistent thing?
I just really just falling back on what we were coached to do, technique. We go through Indy every day in practice, tackling, pursuit drill. Just the way we pursue the ball. Sometimes our angles are kind of messed up, which, allows people to cut back. So just focusing on how we're pursuing to the ball properly and just giving effort. So just in case if one guy misses, you got the cavalry to come in and just not make a small gain to a big gain. So that's just the main thing, just limit the big plays, especially yards after contact is like the main way. So we just got to be focused on how we come to the ball carrier, what leverage we have and the fits we need to make on defense.
Hi, Andrew. My question is specifically for the defense. The defense only held Memphis to only 7 points in the second half. What was the message at halftime?
Coach K told us just tackling. Tackling was the biggest thing. We were there to make the play, didn't make the tackle or with the tackle or and also just energy. Energy is a big thing. You need to play football passionately and just doing our job. That's the main thing. We don't have to do too much. So Coach K just talked to us and saying, hey, just focus on getting a stop. Focus on that. Don't focus on the score. And we came out and get a 3 and out. So just really just doing the fundamentals that we were taught.
Can I ask you something similar to what Coach was talking about from your perspective on the field? When y'all get going, you were going. You had a hard time getting going tonight. What was kind of the challenge there?
I felt like we had extra pressure on ourselves in the beginning of the game. And then Q-Jack, we all got the team, together, the offense side together. We're like, just go out, have fun, just get that extra monkey off your back. And once we got the monkey off our back, we felt you drive down the field and I don't know, we just had that extra pressure for I don't know what reason,
Does it feel kind of like an extra weight when y'all like to take the ball at the beginning and that first drive didn't go according to plan?
I don't think so. Like UConn, we had the ball first, you know what I'm saying? To be honest with you, I love taking the ball, any time. Like I feel like when our offense is going, it gives our team that extra, energy. Like Coach Muntz always says, we're the front portion of the program. We just have to execute. That's really it, Like it's not an effort thing, it's not an energy thing, it's not a fight thing. You have to execute.
And Coach talked about a bowl game and what could be in store for you guys. Tough slate going forward. How do you kind of talked about that extra pressure, that extra strain, making this one hard? How do you prevent that extra outside pressure so y'all can find a way to get those wins you need down the stretch?
I would say really preaching win the right now. That was a big thing for us, UConn. I feel like we kind of got away from that a little bit. Winning it right now, just focusing on just one rep, winning one rep. After we win one rep, stack that rep. That's a big thing, just stacking plays. We didn't really stack plays tonight, so.
Today, it looked like there was a few self-inflicted wounds on the offense. From a player perspective, how do you look to improve and avoid those kinds of mistakes?
Of course, you want to be clean. You always want to be clean. And like Coach said, it is kind of tough, with our style of offense. When we get behind the chains, it's hard for us, on third downs, like he said. But really just we're coached good, we're coached well. And it's really just mindset thing, just focusing on, okay, this one rep or, so.
As a leader on offense, what's the message on the sideline when you're down by multiple scores about just chipping back one score at a time rather than trying to recoup 21 or 28 points?
I said, just have fun. Like we're so good when we have fun. We're so good when we're energetic. We're so good whenever we're all just, going for one goal. Like I said it before, like this team really brings me chills. Like whenever we're just having fun, like Coach said, we're like just a pack of wolves, just trying to go attack. Like I love this team. I really do love this team. And when we have fun, you can feel it, you can feel it on our sidelines, so that was the message, really, just to go have fun. It's a kid's game at the end of the day, just go have fun.